What's going on, guys? Here with Jeff Kamke again, Wealth Energetics. We're going to do another video sharing some pretty amazing shit. Like, it's just, there's so many awesome breakthroughs and moments and just like conversations taking place. Like, it's I don't want to go to sleep without making like a ton of content and just getting it out there and sharing it. And we apologize for the audio last time. We were up at the top, very windy, so I'm going to see if I can clean that up. But so we are at the end of day 2 right now. We're just chilling and just reflecting on the day. And man, like I don't even think it was part of the retreat itself. Like I don't think Chris Kirkpatrick owns the hotel, running the agency, and all, running the retreat. I don't think he actually plans the networking. What would you call it? Just the men went in their own group, women went in their own group. Yep. And like for us, we were there, and it was just the guys, and it was just like this really awesome brotherhood community where we're talking about our journeys and sharing things that we've experienced, you know, or things we've overcome and stuff like that. And the exercises, like the connection exercise that he did, was just like, I had so much resistance to it. But man, when we actually got into the exercise, it was incredible. I mean, people were like crying and stuff. I almost started crying. It was like, man, it was just such a powerful environment to be in, to accept the vulnerability, or like a good place to be vulnerable. Yep. and let some stuff out and whatnot. And I'd love to hear your experience. I'll talk a little bit about mine afterwards, because I thought it was just freaking epic. And just to preface that really quick, like, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, building wealth. I love infinite banking and talking about, you know, how crappy IUL is and all that stuff, right? But man, being here, it's just like, it's so, what we're doing here is just, it's so much more than a life insurance product or an infinite banking concept. Like that, these are really powerful tools and strategies. But the inner work in creating, surrounding yourself with a perfect tribe and stuff, it's like a whole other level that lets you accelerate the wealth building process, reach your goals. And I think it's like sometimes the missing piece to reaching our goals that we neglect. I'm a victim of this, or not a victim. I'm guilty of this, where I don't think it's really going to make that big of a difference. I'd rather just study and, you know, learn how infinite banking works and IULs work, and I just want to focus on that. And then I neglect the brotherhood, the friends, the tribe, the networking, and all that stuff. And being here just the last 2 days, man, it's like, I could just feel it. My mindset has been propelled to a whole other level. So I'd love to hear your experience, talk a little bit about mine, but wanted to preface it. That's what we're talking about in this video.
Yeah, it's been really cool today. I don't think that was planned, like you said. I think Chris, that came up today, he said, hey, you guys want to do this? And I think most of us were like, man, sure, I guess, whatever, we'll try it, you know?
Right.
And I've been through similar stuff, not exactly like it, but it was a process of 16, 17 of us were in a circle, and like we went around the circle 3 different times. The first one was just, what's your name? And like, what are you feeling right now in your body? So it's kind of a, you know, tuning into yourself exercise. And, you know, like most of them were positive experience or positive emotions that people had. And a couple were, you know, you double them negative or, you know, just a little unsettled or whatever. And then we went around again and we talked about, you know, what lights us up, like what comes alive inside of us right now is the way that the facilitator did it. And that was like going into a deep level of everybody and connecting on a deeper level. And you understood, the facilitator talked so much about us men bear so much that we don't really have an outlet for, like unless we have a close peer group or friend group, which I think a lot of us tend to not, because we're so focused on pushing.
I'm absolutely guilty of that.
It's all about the prize. It's trying to, you know, provide for families or hit your goals. It's all about that. And we go through a lot of sacrifice and through a lot of inner dialogue that we don't ever have an outlet for. We retain it, and then it can be crushing. And I know I'm saying that for myself. I mean, just in the few days before we got here, I mean, I was at that kind of just breakdown like, screw it, I'm done. You know, not about this business, but just all the factors of life.
Sure.
Wife, kids, bills, you know, your goals, you're not quite there. So doing this tonight, it was like, this is going to be kind of cool, you know, being able to sit down with guys. I mean, you know, some of them were people in the community actually that came in, like, you know, a handful of guys that are just, they live here in the DR.
Right.
But then the rest of us were agents. So we already had kind of a precursor of it last night where we were all kind of getting all deep and in our touchy-feely
we
moments.
Primed a little bit.
Yeah, we got it going.
He set us up for it a little bit.
Yep. So that was kind of cool. So then, tonight it was like, all right, you know, let's really like get into it. And I think everybody did a good job of.
Yeah.
The facilitator said, you know, if you want to pass, you don't want to go there. It's a safe environment. Like, don't feel pressured like you got to do it. But I think everybody did a really good job of, you know, bringing down the curtain and being like, hey, this is where I'm at. Being real with it.
Yeah.
And I think that authenticity in the room really did a lot of like cross-inspiring for everybody to like, hey, me too, this is me, oh yeah, I can relate to that, I've been there before. And it's something that I think just everybody, I'm sure females feel the same way, that there's just not that element in society built into it. I mean, other cultures tend to do that, you know, like more third world countries or indigenous tribes, that's like a part of their culture, whereas Americans, we don't do that. We just take a psychiatric drug to deal with it.
Right.
We don't actually get in there and allow what's going on in life to come to the surface. We don't have a support network to come together. And, you know, you and I have had good talks. I had good talks with other guys tonight. You know, it's like one-on-one after, you know, the main thing. And it's just like, we're all dealing with this stuff. Like, why aren't we more open about it? Why don't we support each other and check in? Hey, man, you doing all right? Like, instead of the, hey, how you doing? Oh, good, man. Yeah, good, man. I'm killing it.
Yeah.
Like, no, like, truly, how are you doing, man? Like, you doing okay? You hanging in there? And, you know, I'm reminded of a sports podcast that I think they've kind of changed directions, but a year ago I used to tune into it quite a bit. Blanking on the name of it. I know Brandon Marshall, wide receiver from back in the day, him and a few other like NFL players, like a couple NBA players did it. And like at the end of every podcast episode, they talk about that, the mental health, not just of like, you know, money or success, but like how are they in their relationships? How are they showing up for their families? How are they showing up for life after professional sports? Because a lot of those guys have lived in the spotlight their whole life, and then boom, it stops. And like that's a major shift. So they talk all about that, of like having a network and checking in with their guys. Like, dude, you hanging in there? Like when you're going through the struggles, having somebody to call up, be like, dude, man, I'm struggling, and being okay to open up that vulnerability that a lot of us guys are kind of trained. I mean, we're not like outright trained, but kind of like
indirect. Yeah, a lot of it is very indirect. I don't think I never like really see anything in society where, you know, it tells guys like, you know, you gotta suppress this stuff, you know, don't show any emotion or whatever. But it's it definitely is indirect, and where we just want to get through it, deal with it. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. We just kind of bury it. You know, I'll deal with it later. You know, I'll go have a drink, smoke a cigarette. You know, deal with it. However, you know, that person deals with that kind of stuff on a regular basis. But there's so much power in like you said, this goes for women too. Like having women's groups, men's groups. But like one of the things I was saying that really resonated with me during that event was the brotherhood community, where we as men we know what other men are going through as well. So when every guy was saying what their life journey has been, like what is their life right now, what are they experiencing at the moment, we felt it, we know it, we can acknowledge it, we understand it, because a lot of us, I mean, we're on the same journey. And I think just an environment like that, being able to, like, you know what I really saw today at that event, and this happened for me a little bit too, was those things that we suppress on a regular basis, being able to let that out, express it, and it be okay. It releases so much tension, negative energy that is actually suppressing us from being able to be as productive and efficient and authentic as possible, right? Just that relief of getting it off your chest, knowing that it's okay, that you have a tribe of people that you can connect with. They understand you, they'll be there for you, etc., whatever, to help you get through whatever it is that you're going. It's just, it's so overlooked, and I know this because I have overlooked it for so long, and that event was such a reminder of how important it is to have that community, tribe, in our case the Brotherhood, just other men that we're on the same path, we can connect with, we can reach out to. And, if shit's going down, because, especially as entrepreneurs, I mean, nothing goes in a straight line. Like, life is a roller coaster ride anyways. And having that tribe to fall back on instead of always trying to bear the brunt of the challenge, the obstacle, whatever it is yourself, man, like, that's what I saw. And, like, I saw a couple of my mentors, like, breaking down and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, this event is like more than I could have ever expected. Like the kind of inner work we're doing. We were talking about core values the other day. Like I had so many light bulb moments and breakthrough moments, going through that stuff. We were talking earlier, we haven't even really talked about life insurance at all. We're having fun doing content and stuff like, during intermission and stuff, but we haven't really talked about that stuff at all. It's all about the mission, the purpose, doing the inner work and just connecting with each other and stuff like that. And that's what I really got out of that event, is this that it's okay to not be okay, to have shit going on, and to be human. Like, we're not perfect. Yep. And you and I were talking at dinner. I asked you, like, the things that you have worked on, do they still come up and haunt you every once in a while? And we started talking about that. And I think it's in those moments too, like, maybe there's some things you can deal with on your own, sometimes not, but having somebody to reach out to in that moment if it gets too much. And like you could do a lot of work, but it still comes up, right? It's not always healed 100%. And when it comes up, having that environment to let that stuff out, talk about it, man, like, oh man, that was one of the most powerful events that I've been a part of. It was just crazy listening to everybody, watching a couple of people break down, and man, it was just awesome, dude.
Yeah, that was only the second part we did. We went around, introduced each other, and said how we felt, and then there was the speaking we just went over, and then the third element was we broke off into pairs, and then we rotated pairs, and we put right hand on each other's shoulders, looked each other dead in the eyes, took some breaths together, like tuned into each other, and then shared what we were reading in the other person's eyes from a positive standpoint, and reaffirming of who we are, what we saw in the other person. And like, I don't know how many times we switched, 5-6 times. I don't know how many partners I had, but that was really cool, because I know for my takeaway from that was I'm extremely hard on myself. It's very easy for me to pick out all the negative things the negative characteristics of myself, the areas that I'm not improving, that I thought I'd already be better at this point in time, for as long as I've been working on it. Like, I thought that was long gone. And to be reminded from somebody else that can see into you, like, hey, this is your greatness. Hey, these are your strong points. These are the characteristics that are, right there, and that I ignore them. I forget about them. And to be reminded of that, like, oh, yeah, okay. I might beat myself down pretty bad, but I have a lot there that I tend to forget about, that I need to be thankful for, and I need to put more, stock in those positive attributes and remind myself of those things. And that for me was a big, powerful takeaway. And I know there was guys that, like I said, a mentor that was really breaking down at one point.
Yeah, and, he was, man.
There was just
a
lot of brotherly love. And, it's kind of funny, like, because stereotypically guys aren't supposed to do that kind of stuff. Like, you don't connect with each other. You don't.
It's weird when guys do that.
Tell each other how you feel, but
that's also why it's very uncomfortable for a lot of guys too. I mean, we don't do that very often. Right. Sometimes we are told not to do that, or made to feel like a sissy or something like that for showing a little bit of emotion. And I think that's why a lot of times we do suppress that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think in my lifetime, some of the strongest leaders I've ever seen are the ones that can connect emotionally to themselves. And that they can manage their emotions. They have emotional intelligence. Sometimes you think the guy that, at least my perception, sometimes the guy that yells and screams is the one most in control, because he can suppress other people and knock them down, when it's really the person that doesn't get upset, even though somebody's screaming in their face, that guy has the most control. And I've seen leadership where they have the most emotional intelligence. They're the most aware of their own thoughts and their own emotions, and they can express it, and they can get vulnerable in a situation like that, where they can open up fully, and they don't have to hide behind parts of themselves that they don't want the other guy to see because they're afraid of the judgment or they're afraid of truly being known at a deeper level. Like, that's where I've always strived to be, and it's great to be around an organization that does this stuff. I mean, this wasn't what we came here for. This wasn't like on the sign-up sheet, like come here to do like bro circles and hug each other and all that. But that's what it's turned out to be the last two nights is basically how we've ended the night, and it's pretty darn funny, but really cool because the discussion hasn't been around how can we sell more policies. Matt, how many policies you want to sell next month? Man, let's do it, dude. Let's crush it. How much? What's your income goal?
It hasn't come up.
That
at
is
all.
0.
Yeah.
And so, I know part of what this organization is doing is bringing in other people. And I mean, if there's people watching right now that they are in a culture that maybe isn't this and they're looking for something like this would be the time to get a hold of Matt
100%.
or myself and say, hey, what do you want to, what are you looking for? This might be a good fit for you. If you're in an industry where you're already in the life insurance or the IUL industry or in whatever industry, and you're just not feeling the alignment and you're looking for a connection of brotherhood and people that are on the same page like mine, and to be part of something that's bigger than what you'll ever create individually, like this would be a place to check out for sure.
100%. Like it is, it's a pretty incredible organization, and I think part of it for me, it aligns so perfectly. Like I was saying this earlier, or maybe it's yesterday, I don't remember, but I have never been in alignment with a group of people like this in my entire life, like where we share almost the same exact core values, principles, like we're in this for the same exact reason, and there is so much freaking power behind that, especially if it's not about money, right? Now here's the thing, we want to make money, we want to make a lot of money, I want you guys to make a lot of money, all right? Nothing wrong with making money, but it shouldn't. I've always believed that if you focus on providing value to people, focus on solving a problem for people, like focus on making somebody's life better, the money will follow. Now, everybody's journey, like getting to your financial goals, is different. Like, because it's great to have that mission and purpose, and okay, I'm not focusing on money, but I do still have bills to pay, obviously, right? So everybody's journey is a little bit different. Mine certainly took a long time. But when I finally learned that if I just focus on providing the value first, and in this particular type of business, educating people, just sharing my journey, I know the money's going to follow. So I don't need to make that my first priority, because I know it's going to work out. And I think that just allows you to show up so much better in people's lives with what you're trying to help them with, right? And so, like, if the primary goal, like, I think that's why we have such a distaste for companies like WFG and PHP and like these network marketing financial services companies. It's all about recruiting and, sell a policy to your family and friends as soon as possible, get your policy as soon as possible, which you don't even make money on. You're supposed to do that. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but we get paid to do our own policies, right? So you're supposed to, that's supposed to happen. But like, it's such a different culture when the core focus of the company is just recruit, make money, sell policies and stuff like that, versus what we're doing here, where it's all about core value. Like, what am I bringing to the world? What problems am I solving? Who is my ideal audience that, I can help along their specific journey, and I can provide value to. Like, there's so much power in that, I think. And we've only been here for 2 days, and it's just incredible how much in alignment everybody here is. And but I wanted to get your take on, you brought something up where you said that you tend to be really hard on yourself, right? I can absolutely do the same thing. I'd like to think I've gotten a little bit better, but then I think it's a tough balance to strike, where because like you also said during that event, where you were reminded about the good things, that like your journey and all the things you have accomplished, and you have made a lot of progress, right? You have to remind yourself of that. How do you strike the balance between those two? Because I think it is productive. It's a good thing to be hard on yourself sometimes. You have to do that, because that it keeps you moving forward. Like where you don't get content and things, that you don't get too comfortable or whatnot. You got to be a little hard on yourself, but then you do have to remind yourself about the progress as well. So how do you is there a way that you strike the balance there, where okay, it's time to be hard on myself. It's time to remind myself how much progress I've made. Have you found a way to find the balance in that?
Probably not. Probably not the guy to answer this, at least from what I'm doing. I know head-wise, I know the knowledge to get there. Am I applying it in my life, perfectly? Absolutely not. Work in progress. But I know some of the mentorship that I've had over the years, some of the training and personal development around this idea is like, you have to remain mentally broke to where you want to continue to push the envelope.
Right.
For me, I can take that too far, and I can take my sight off of the accomplishments and what I have done and the gratitude, the thankfulness for where I have come, the lessons along the way, and I can get singular focused on what I am not yet or what I have not accomplished yet.
Right.
And I can zero in on that, and then I can crank up the emotional intensity and then just beat myself down, which I know that's a subconscious pattern that I need to delve into deeper. Obviously,
that becomes very unproductive at that point.
Exactly. And leading up to coming here, I was in that phase. Ask my wife, I was just beating the tar out of myself the last few days coming here because there's just too much going on. I'm trying to take over my dad's business after he passed.
Right.
I'm still wrestling. Is that the right move or not? I think it is, but maybe it's not.
Right.
This business, I've got a landscaping company that I've been running since I was, 13 years old, basically. So I got a lot going on. Family, kids that, as kids get older, they have their own challenges.
Sure.
And marriages have their own challenges when you're focused on growing money in your business. So for me, it's been hard trying to find the balance. It's been hard to do that. And I've just found over the years, you have to be around people, around systems. So whether that's like, there's success companies and organizations you can be a part of that they have regular meetings. Obviously, like this, what we're developing here with Life180 is becoming that now, where you're reminded of the pattern for success, the recipe for success of like, hey, I need to focus every day on what am I thankful for. There's some mentors that I've done this in the past where every night before you go to bed, you write down everything that you've accomplished that day, everything you're thankful for that day. And it gets your focus off of, maybe I didn't make all the calls I wanted to. Maybe I didn't make the content that I wanted to today. Maybe I didn't do all those things.
Yeah.
But I still did 6-8 things. Maybe they're not even significant, but just by putting your energy and attention on that,
right,
can at least put you into that brain state basically before you go to sleep. And then you waking up the next morning, starting your day with gratitude for what you're thankful for, and going into your day from a state of gratitude helps you stay out of that. Now, there's obviously the whole thing of, I still beat myself down. What do you do in those moments to recognize it and then get on track?
Sure.
There's a plethora of tools out there. Everybody likes their certain tools. Some people, they have to try a bunch of tools. For some people, it's meditating. For some people, it's going to scripture. For some people, it's like emotional freedom technique, tapping. There's a ton of tools out there, thousands of tools that when you're in the moment of doing something you shouldn't, like beating yourself up like I do, and I do this some, I don't do it enough, of like, oh, I'm in this pattern, I'm in this state of mind, I need to course correct this. So then I'll go to some of my go-to tools and get that emotional intensity down. So when you get the emotional intensity down, it changes your thinking. Yeah. And then you can easily go back to the positive side.
Yeah, it's weird too, because it seems like it would be kind of obvious where you would notice it, but it's not though. Like when you get into that, this is how it is for me anyways. When I get into that state of mind, sometimes whenever it happens, I recognize it after the fact, obviously. But when I'm in it, I'm so consumed by how it's making me feel. Like it's what I was saying earlier in the group, where it's like the past comes up to haunt me again. Like all the work that I've done, like when it comes back up, it makes absolutely no sense because I'm not anywhere close to where I was back then, what my past is haunting me with and reminding me of, like, hey, yeah, you've made all this progress or whatever, but hey, not that long ago you were, a big gigantic loser. Just a quick reminder. Like that's how it happens for me. And then when it hits me sometimes, I get sucked into that. Like I get so consumed by that feeling, I don't really recognize that I'm in it right now, or that I need to snap myself out of it. Mm-hmm. It's a lot harder than it sounds sometimes, I guess, depending on what you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. But I think also, like, just the other parts of that conversation is, it's okay. I think it's okay and normal for that to happen. Like, we've all been through crazy shit that we do work on, but the past, it's almost, depending on how emotionally charged the events were, it's in our DNA now. Like, it was so impactful in a negative way, unfortunately, in our lives, that we're never going to forget it. We'll never truly get over it. We'll always have that scar, and it's always going to come up. And I think that's okay. That's normal. And I don't think we need to or should beat ourselves up over it. But like you said, being able to snap yourself out of it, get some kind of tool that when that emotion comes up, that feeling comes up, you just, immediately to go into that. I think that's a really valuable point and tool to use to snap yourself out of it. Because, like, I think I was saying earlier, like, I have to pinch myself sometimes, like, just being here with you guys, and just how fast things can change in life. I guess both positive and negatively. Yeah. Like, just as fast as you rise up, you could fall right back down too. I guess. But when you put the work in and you just never quit, like, it's crazy how much stuff can change so fast. But then also, maybe that's, I'm not going to say it's a bad thing, but we're not ready for it. We're not used to it. We're not used to the success. We're not used to getting results. So it's like, is this real? Like, how long is this going to last before I screw it up, right? That's what kind of goes on in my mind sometimes. It's like, okay, I've made all this progress and I'm doing good now, but, I'm still the loser I was 5 years ago. So I'm going to find some way to screw it up. And just kind of bring it home here. I think that's normal. I think it's okay. So if you guys experience that is perfectly normal. How do you deal with it? How do you respond to it? I think is the key to that. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this, but for me, what I try to do is I try to think about, like, just stacking as many wins every day as I possibly can, so that whatever losses I have, they don't even come close to the wins that I've had for the day. And what that does is, over time, that compounds, and over the last 5 years now, you've had so many more wins than losses, right? When you start to feel like that, you can kind of go back and look at, like, all the progress you've made, all of the wins you've had versus losses. Like, yeah, I screwed things up in the past, but look at what I'm doing now. Like, I've made all this progress, and that shouldn't be taken light. Or what am I trying to say there? You shouldn't overlook that, right? I think that's a really powerful thing. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think a few things come to mind on all that. I think I don't know a lot of Tony Robbins' teachings, but I know, like, he teaches a lot of, like, principles. Other trainers teach on, like, principles of, like, awareness. Like, okay, I'm in this negative state, and I can be aware of that state, and then I can choose a different thought. I can choose to apply, like, some teachers will say, put a rubber band around your wrist and snap it every time.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of that stuff. Personally, it can work. I know some people that try it, they love it. And I think it's part of just finding out what tools work for you. But some of my background is in bioenergetics, so it goes deeper into, like, how the mind works. So we have our conscious awareness, and we can say, I'm going to put my attention on where I should have my thoughts, but there's still a subconscious thing going on in the background that if we don't ever address that, it takes, some research says, 10,000 repetitions of a positive thought to counter a negative thought.
That's crazy.
So that's like, you have to snap the rubber band 10,000 times. So you can consciously work through these things just by, like, willpower, awareness, starting to, like, okay, I screwed it up yesterday, I'm in it again today, I recognize it, I still didn't really do much for it. Tomorrow, okay, I see it, I'm going to take some steps to try to, I'm going to turn on some good music and try to shift my energy that way, or whatever it is. You can manually try to do that, but at some point you're going to be in a situation where there's a key in, a trigger of emotion, something that happens in your life that's triggering this pattern that continues to run.
Yeah.
And that's where you're in that moment of, like you said, you're all the way through the experience, and you come out the other end going, wow, I just beat myself up for the last 2 days.
Right.
Like, really hardcore.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to punch myself in the face, or,
right.
Whatever it is, I just beat it up. And so you have to do both. You have to be aware of it, and having the tools on the conscious side are important, but then also whatever mechanism you can get into the subconscious. And again, there's a plethora of tools out there to get into that. And what it does is you are lowering the emotional intensity attached to that memory.
Right.
And so when you're keyed in the future, like you said, you're never going to forget about all the traumas. You're never going to forget about the disappointments and all the things negatively that have happened in your life. But what you can do is lower the emotion and like the emotional response. You can turn the volume way down on those so that when they're keyed in, they don't take over your mental state, your emotional state.
Yeah.
They're much more manageable to stay in your conscious awareness.
And you don't lose 2 days beating yourself up unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. So that's like what I've seen from my background of like, you can play both sides. Some trainers and teachers will say stay on the conscious side of it.
Yeah.
And some people can have some success with that, but then there's usually like this point where like, this has only gotten me so far, and I have to do something at the subconscious level to turn down the volume on these emotions, these emotional patterns that continue to show up in my life.
Yeah.
And when I do that, that's when it's much easier to, on the conscious side, to control that, stay above it. If you get off track, get back on track sooner, so that you're not self-sabotaging for weeks straight. I mean, I've been there. You're in a negative spiral for weeks, and you're like, wow, I just wasted 2 weeks, no productivity, undid all my successes before that. You know, I don't do that much anymore because I've been able to apply a lot of this stuff in my life, and I'm getting better and better. Yeah. But you can, it's human nature. You're going to have your moments where you go back, and having the grace to just know that's part of the process. And with all those things, there's lessons, there's gold nuggets. If you stay focused on, I'm still failing, I'm still not moving the needle in my life, you keep your attention there, you're going to continue to create that versus, okay, look at it subjectively or objectively, like, hey, I'm still doing this. What can I learn from this? What do I need? You know, maybe I need to get around more like-minded people. Maybe I need to find that brotherhood. Maybe I need to hire a coach or a mentor, or go see a practitioner that can help with some of this stuff. Like, those are the lessons you can get out of it. You take that action step, apply whatever it is that comes up from that. Now you're moving the needle forward. You're creating a success, you're creating momentum in the positive direction. And then you can start really making change. And for sometimes it can be a really drastic leap forward when you do that work. Sometimes it's micro steps over a period of time, but you'll see that you're moving the needle when you're doing that work. And that's where it's like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. I
think one of the, like, just 100% on that. Like, I think what it comes down to, you kind of mentioned it earlier, is having emotional intelligence on yourself. What this all comes down to is understanding yourself, getting to actually know yourself, what you are most prone to responding to, what those triggers are, and understanding what you need, because everybody's different. Everybody snaps out of these types of things a little bit different. And Hannah actually brought this up, I think it was yesterday, where she was talking about resetting every once in a while. And here's the thing, there's a big difference between taking a couple of days off or whatever for resetting and, like what you were saying, losing 2 weeks in a downward spiral. We're not talking about that, because now we're moving backwards. But what she said really resonated with me, because every once in a while, and it's really weird, it just kind of happens out of nowhere. It's not even like a consistent time frame either. Like, I'll go 6 months, like I'm just hyper focused, super productive, I'm growing by leaps and bounds and like everything that I do, and then all of a sudden it hits me out of nowhere, and I'm like, I can't do anything right now, and I need a couple of days to reset where I don't do anything. I'll play some music, or I'll focus a little bit more. I'll go work out a couple extra times. I like video games every once in a while. I like my StarCraft every once in a while. Okay, I still got my N64 and all that stuff, right? And sometimes I'm like, all right, F everything. I'm just taking a step back. Sometimes it happens in 2 weeks. Like it's kind of weird. Like what triggers that, and I think that's part of really understanding you as a person. What am I triggered by? How do I respond to it? How do I get out of it as fast as possible? And sometimes taking a step back, preferably not a very unproductive 2 weeks or anything, but like for me, it's usually like a day or two where I take a step back. I'll do like the bare minimum that I need to do to maintain where I'm at. But I'm not aggressively, like I normally am, trying to produce content or move forward or anything. And you know what's crazy is, after the 1 or 2 days, I come back even more productive afterwards, just like fired up. I've got, my energy is renewed. My passion for it is there again. And it's almost like there was just this reset really quick. Take a step back, take a break, like let your let your mind and brain and system consume everything or deal with everything that you've been working on and process it. Take a step back for a second and then get back in the race as well. Like that was a big key for me, because I noticed that about myself. But I think that's really the point I'm trying to make, is the self-awareness with yourself of what it is that can potentially create that downward spiral for you, and what do you respond to individually that keeps you from going down that downward spiral? Is it a reset? Is it snapping the rubber band? Is it like you have to figure out what works for you? And I think when you get to that point, you're virtually unstoppable. Like, because again, nobody's perfect. Our past is going to come up and mess with us. All right, that just is what it is. But how do we punch back? How do we get off of the ropes as soon as we possibly can? Do you have anything that works for you in that? And do you find value in like taking a step back every once in a while, resetting, refocusing, maybe doing something outside of the business that you enjoy doing, whether it's music or something like that, and then you get back and you're good to go again? Do you notice that? Yeah, I'm kind of like you. I don't have like a set agenda, like, every Sunday I take off necessarily. I know that like my background's, growing up in the church and stuff, and that was kind of like, you took Sunday off, you didn't go grocery shopping on Sunday, you didn't do that. I don't necessarily adhere to that as an adult, but I do find where, you're grinding, and then it's like, for me, it's more of a fatigue and just like a mental checkout. I'll wake up one day and it's just like, that's good, mental checkout. I can't even fathom producing content, checking emails, running Illustrate. Like, I can't even go there. I need to just check out for the day. Yep. For me, it's usually one day. Rarely would it be like back-to-back days. But usually I get like one day of a reset, connect back with a family, spend time with kids, go on a date with my wife. Yep. If it's nice weather, I live in Michigan, so I've got 6 months of cold. So like I love shooting hoops, playing basketball, just by myself. So being able to go outside, that's always been my meditation. When my wife and I met, she was like, "You don't meditate?" And I'm like, "No, I guess not." I don't really know much about it. And the longer I got into it, I read the book Phil Jackson wrote called Sacred Hoops, and he talks about like pairing basketball with like spirituality. Huh. And through some stuff in that book, I'm like, me playing basketball was my form of meditation. So like a lot of times when I was dealing with those kind of checkout moments, especially as a kid growing up, where it wasn't necessarily, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 13. So kind of in this element, but not quite like when you're an adult, but still, you just get where you want to check out. I might be 16 years old, but I go out and shoot hoops for 45 minutes or an hour, sometimes longer. And as I thought back to like, what was I doing in those moments? Like, what was my thought process? Where was my mind? Contrasting before I started to after, like how much better I felt, how much more tuned in I felt to my body. I'm like, I was doing like a moving meditation without formally saying, I'm going to go do this for this purpose. It was just kind of a inherent thing that I accidentally kind of did. So for me, it's been, doing that. And then, you come back, you recharge, you refocus, re-energize, ready to kind of pick up where you left off, keep moving the needle, keep doing your thing. I like the term you gave, the mental checkout. I think that would be the difference there, is the mental checkout versus the downward spiral. Yeah. Those are the two very, very different things. It's okay to do the mental checkout. I think that's more of what I do every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll just be like, okay, I need to take a step back here. But it's a mental checkout. It's not like I've been triggered by something that, I want to burn everything to the ground that I built or whatever, and you just completely go backwards. So I think that's a good distinction. So awesome conversation as always, man. Anything specific that you want to finish up on? Any specific breakthroughs that you want to share? Did we cover a good majority of it? Yeah, I don't think any breakthroughs. I think the last thing I was thinking back, circling around earlier in our conversation, we were talking about value and producing, things of value is... think back, I don't know what book it comes out of, probably an older success book, like Zig Ziglar or something, where talk about love people and use money, not using people for the love of money. And that was a big distinction. Powerful. And that just came up recently in my Facebook memories, made me think of it as you were talking about that, as what we've been here the last couple of days, and just in our time with Life180, like, it's been a focus of doing inner work, and the inner work for our own growth, but even in the sales process, it's not a formal sales process where we're trying to like unethically just convince people to buy for the sake of buying, but
really almost doing our inner work and helping a client do inner work and pairing those two things so that we're aligned and we can help the client get aligned. And if what we're selling happens to be the logical fit between those two things, great.
Sure.
But that inner work is the value that we're bringing to the table. And like we said, the last few days, there's been no mention of sales. There's been no mention of hardly any marketing. We've been getting into a little bit with funnels and some of that. We'll do more of it, but the emphasis has been on the value and who we are as agents and doing our growth work, making sure we're on the right track, coming from the right space of integrity, doing the right thing for the client, educating well-roundedness with the client on all aspects of their finances so that we can sleep at night as agents knowing that we're not using these people because we're just focused on a number that we want to hit so we can get a new rank or we can buy that car. All that stuff will come when we're focused on the right things. And maybe it won't come as fast as the other guy that is focused on all the money, because sometimes you can manifest faster being on the dark side than on the good side.
It's a house built on sand, though.
It is, and I'd rather build it right, do it right. It might take me 5 times longer. It might take me, 50%. I don't know what the number is, but if I can sleep at night and I know that the people that I'm helping aren't going to be endangered by anything that I'm doing and they're only going to be helped, to me, that's all about it. And, if you're loving people, coming from that energy and utilizing money, and I did a video earlier on this about every exchange being an unequal exchange, but for the positive, where the other person feels like they got more value from you than you received in monetary value in exchange. So it's an uneven exchange for them. You're feeling great about what you charge. They're feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much value I got for the price.
They feel like they got a great deal.
Yeah. So that way we can still make a living. We can still live in abundance, but then we're doing the right thing on the other end so that the clients are up-leveling themselves. They're able to achieve the goals and the dreams that they have for them. And it's just, I see that kind of the synchronicity of everything, how it works together. Yeah,
I love that, man. And what you're saying is like, it's not direct, like it's not actual sales training that we're doing, but it kind of is indirectly a little bit where like it goes back to leading by example a little bit, like which I'm a huge fan of. And like I just, everything I do, I try to just, I lead by example. I don't like sharing things that I haven't done or experienced or whatnot. Every once in a while is a place for it, okay? There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But like when you identify your core values, especially when we're creating content, that shows up in how you present yourself, how you articulate things, and the type of content you create. And then that inspires people to start thinking about their own core values. So like when they start hearing some of your content, like it gets them questioning or like asking specific questions about, okay, like what do I believe in? What are the biggest problems in my life, et cetera, and what's important to me, right? So when you start sharing that, because you have identified your core values first, I think like I don't know that there's a more powerful way to sell. Like I don't even like calling it selling, right? But just sharing your journey, what's important to you, that inspires other people to consider that as well. And that helps people find what they need to solve the problems in their life or and to achieve the goals that they're looking to achieve. So I think that's huge, man. That's why like I love this agency. I love people like you and all the other agents that are here, and like we're all on the same page about why we're in this, and it all goes back to like everybody's core values are a little bit different depending on where we're at right now, but there's a very specific purpose far beyond monetary gain of why people are in this agency and why they're here right now. And I think there's just so much power in that. So that's good stuff, man. That's good stuff. We're only in day 2 as well. Like this has been pretty crazy, far more than what I expected. So listen, guys, if you're watching this and you want to be part of an amazing team, like I think that's an understatement when I say that's just the only way I know to describe it at the moment. But we'll have some links down below. Connect with myself and Jeff, have a conversation. Like we're doing some pretty awesome stuff here, man. And I think we're just going to make such a huge positive impact over the long run in people's lives, and we want you to be a part of it. If you align with this message, and you share those common core values and principles and stuff about really helping people with these major. I mean, at the end of the day, what we're doing practically is we're helping people with these major financial decisions. That's that's something that you want to get behind and get started with, like I get so much joy doing it. It's so much fun. It's a really cool business to be in when you're doing it right. You know, and listen, when you do it right, you can still make great money. Like, you know, you don't have to put money first in order to make good money. You know, focus on the value and you know, providing really good services to people and stuff like that, and you know, the money will follow. So we'll have some links down below, guys, if you want to connect, book call. We are always happy to chat. Anything else?
We can go forever, but I think we're good for now.
I think the next one, I'll probably drop it in the description. We're gonna rip on some Dave Ramsey stuff that you found earlier, and maybe some IUL stuff that I found earlier. It's pretty wild, man. Yep. I don't know how some people get away with some of the things they say. It is pretty incredible. So we'll link that down below. Make sure you check it out. All right, guys, we'll talk to you soon. All right.